Hello and welcome to On the Preds with me, your host, Alex Doherty of A to Z Sports and Sean Smith of A to Z Sports. We are here. We are ready to talk about the Nashville Predators. It has been a crazy busy weekend. This is episode 69 of the On the Preds show. If you're watching on YouTube, Sean has held up a sign that says nice. I guess if you're listening on the podcast, you don't know that, but he held up a sign that said nice. He prepared for that joke, which is just so funny. I love that joke.
It never gets old.
Yes, it never, ever gets old. But we have so many things to talk about because this has been a wild weekend of news. We will talk about the trades a little bit, but we've got to talk about the biggest thing. David Poile is resigning as of June 30th. Barry Trotz taking over July 1st, the next day. We have 4 months or so of dual tandem GMs going on, and then after that, it's all the Barry Trotz show. What was your? I just want to start it with this.
Okay,
Sean, what was your reaction when you saw? What was your immediate thought when you saw the news that came down from Elliot Friedman? About 3:00 on Sunday.
Well, I was painting my bathroom, as everyone knows that's been paying attention to the show. There's been a lot of construction at my house, and we're remodeling the bathrooms. And I was in the middle of my 400th coat of paint of the weekend. I stopped momentarily, Alex, to just to check and see if maybe anything had happened. And realistically, I checked within a minute after that had been posted, and I saw it. I put my phone down. I said some expletives, and I said, I gotta get to work. I gotta write something because I was very surprised.
I've this weekend.
What?
Did not think it was going to happen this weekend.
No, I mean it seemed like a really odd time for that announcement to come, in my opinion. I don't know. I don't run a big organization, Alex. I don't. I'm just a regular guy. So I don't know about the timing of stuff, but to me, it would seem like, you could announce that at the beginning of the season and say like, hey, this is going to be my last season. Here's who's going to replace me. We're going to work together. Or conversely, you could wait, till the very end of the season. But I feel, do you want my opinion on why the announcement came now?
Sure.
Okay. Things are about to go down, Alex. Trades are about to happen. Deals are about to be made. Things that, realistically, if you take a fan base that was already kind of irritated with the way things were going, or not going rather, and then you start trading away their favorite players, which I'll be honest, it kind of took me aback a bit to see that the fan base was demanding change. They wanted a change, at the team level. We want to rebuild. They said we want Poile out. And then when they started trading away players with Nino Niederreiter, the immediate visceral reaction was like, that's not what we meant when we said make the team better. We said make the team better, not get rid of a good player. And I think, there's a lot of backlash there. The team hasn't seen that kind of backlash, I think, because you see a player traded that immediately what was going to come down the pipe with Jeannot being traded was almost like if they bring in Trotz now and they kind of create this, like you said, this dual GM situation, this nebulous thing that kind of exists between two GMs instead of a clean break, it's really hard to place blame. It makes it okay because it's part of a transition. And it's not just saying, okay, we're moving on from some players, we're getting what we can for some players. It's also saying, hey, look, we're also changing this. So it's not that this is David Poile doing this. This is how this is being set up for the next general manager. That's kind of how I see it. I may be right. I may be wrong. I find I'm wrong a lot on a lot of things. So I don't know.
I mean, the decision to do it a week before the trade deadline was very interesting. I think it creates a really intriguing amount of leverage for the Predators that these other GMs automatically their attention is diverted to Nashville, right? Because of this massive news. Yeah. So like maybe even teams that wouldn't even have thought to call Nashville about Matthias Ekholm or UC Saros or some of these other big names that are out there. maybe you're like, well, he's leaving. Maybe he's willing to trade the guy now.
Having a
And
moving sale.
so it's like, yeah, it's like moving out and we're getting rid. Now, the prices are not bad. I mean, like these trades over the weekend have been tremendous for Nashville. I mean, like they have in 2 trades, they have completely changed the landscape of the next 3 drafts.
Yeah.
Which is just
Big
going
time.
to do massive things for their reset, as they've called it. And not just for like the long term, but even the short term. I mean, that they have set themselves up to not only have they're shedding a couple players who are forwards who are, I mean, Nino Niederreiter's 30, 20 goal scorer, probably 25 goal scorer this year, but he's 30, right? He's on the end of his career. Tanner Jeannot is a solid player. Don't think he's going to score 24 goals a year. I think he's more of like a 10 to 15. Well, what do the Predators need? They need skill, speed, goal scoring. They need the electric players. They've cleared the way for some of those players to come up. So maybe next year we see a Luke Evangelista, an Afanasiev, maybe a Zach LaRue, who's a little bit different, I guess. But stuff like that, or players like that, you're going to see more often. Not to mention, they're going to draft more players to immediately replace those guys. So they can bring up a lot of the guys from last year or from recent drafts and then work on immediately rebuilding them. Same thing with the goaltending situation. So anyways, it is an interesting time to do it. The biggest thing I think right now is how different will things be? And that's been my refrain today in the conversations I've had. How different is this really going to be? They went from the only GM they've ever had to one of the only coaches they've ever had just becoming the GM. And not only that, but David Poile, as I wrote about in my article about this, he's not just, turning in his work laptop, turning in his work phone, shutting off the lights, carrying out the box with the picture frames and the plant and everything, and then going home and then saying, see you later, I'm headed to Acapulco. Ooh. He's like just moving down the office. He's moving to a different office, right? He's going to be in the building, probably not every day. He's probably not going to be there very often, honestly, but he's going to be an advisor to the hockey operations, which includes Barry Trotz. And I would imagine over the next year, we'll be frequently called upon for, okay, what do you do in this situation? What's the plan of action for this? What do you know about this agent and negotiating with this agent? What do you know about trading with this team? What do we do when it, with regarding the roster and call-ups and all that stuff? All that stuff he's going to go to David Poile for that. He's going to rely on his AGMs as he said today, but I can't imagine he's not going to go to David Poile, who did the job for 26 years. So how different is it going to be? It's not a new face, really. It's a same face and a different job.
Well, and you've got to think too, you've got 3 assistant general managers, and now you're going to have Poile as this advisor. One of the assistant general managers is Brian Poile. So if you've got 4 people that you're looking to for guidance, half of them are Poile's. Yep. So it's definitely something to consider. And I don't know, it's hard to turn down that kind of support from someone who has been in the league for so long to be able to get that kind of information. I think that's a very valuable resource. It's different than, like you said, packing up your stuff and going home and getting on an airplane to some tropical destination. It's like you said, moving down the hallway and just kind of, occupying a different role. The thing is Trotz going to have the freedom to make that role his own? Is he going to be able to do what he thinks is best, or is he going to be advised so much by people who have been in that position for so long that things just continue the same way? It's a valid question. I'm interested to see. Although let's be honest here. You look at that trade that happened last night after the game was over. You look at the return for that, and you're like, okay, well, either the new guy knows what he's doing or the old guy's still got it. Because that was incredible.
We found out. We asked. I know you asked Poile and I asked Barry. I didn't ask Barry, but I was there when Barry was asked about how involved he was. He said he's been a part of the process. I think Poile said something similar, right?
Yeah, he basically said, we weren't going to make any decisions that he wasn't going to be a part of. And I don't think we're going to get an answer on like what percentage of this
Yeah.
trade was
Yeah.
Barry.
Who made it
So,
happen, which is like, it's completely fair. When you got two GMs as the two right now, you
right.
can't decide that. But it is interesting, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Barry Trotz is like kind of on board, and then all of a sudden these trades, when they're selling, they get the biggest haul they've ever gotten for any player.
And
I
I
mean, it's
think,
incredible.
I think, and I think, was it Cap Friendly or somebody that pointed out that that was the first trade they
Yeah.
had that had a draft pick in each of the first 5 rounds.
Oh,
Um,
I didn't see that. No.
yeah,
That's,
I mean that's the first one. I thought that was really
they
interesting.
said it didn't crash their website, but it overloaded their website or whatever.
Yeah,
Man.
and
Yeah,
that was a big deal.
the Predators now have 11 picks in the 2023 draft, which is in Nashville. It's going to be, assuming there's no changes, going to be their biggest draft class since they went down to seven rounds in 2005.
Yeah.
They had a couple draft classes where they had 9 or 10, but never 11. And that's amazing. And these are quality picks too. They have 5 picks in the top 100, something I've talked about a lot. 5 picks in the top 100, 3 more picks in the 4th round, 2 picks in the 5th round, and a 6th round pick. Only 1 in the 1st, but first of all, there could be more coming. But also, you don't only need 1st round picks.
No.
2nd round picks are important. 3rd round picks are important. 4th round picks are important. So you need volume right now, which they are going to have a ton of.
Yeah.
Little clarification. I heard some people asking questions about the top 10 protection. As I understand it, I'm sure you've heard the same. If that pick ends up in 2025, if that pick ends up being a top 10 pick for Tampa, Tampa keeps it for 2025, but then the 2026 year 1st round draft pick, the Predators get no matter what, no matter where it is. So it's not protected. It just becomes it. So yeah, think about it like this. It's a top 10 protected for 2025. You almost want the Tampa Bay Lightning to fall off and become bad again, which seems unlikely, but become bad. Maybe they sell things off, or maybe there's a huge injury. I don't know what happens, but then all of a sudden it's a top 10 pick in 2025, because that means it's probably more likely the 2026 pick would actually be pretty high, and the Predators would get it no matter what. So just something to think about. That's long term, though. That's 3 years away. So, but they are in such a different position than they were even a week ago. It's wild. It's absolutely wild, because now next year is just so much more clear. I mean, the only major RFA now they have is Cody Glass. He's their biggest RFA. They now could pick between they've got Dante Fabro, Alex Carrier, and now Cal Foote. Clearly, they're going to keep Cal Foote. They're going to sign him. Probably going to keep Alex Carrier. Dante Fabro seems like all but gone, right? Like he's probably gone.
I don't know. Are they going to keep Cal Foote?
I think so. I think they will.
I don't know. I don't see any guarantee there. I mean,
okay. You're right. Maybe they're keeping him to flip him, but I feel like, yeah, I guess I hadn't thought of that. Maybe they could flip Cal Foote, but I've also heard a lot about Dante Fabro in San Jose. So
true, I have too.
So Fabro being on the way out. I mean, Cal Foote's a big dude. He's a very different player than Dante Fabro.
Very large.
Our good friend Eric Dune is not a huge fan of Cal Foote, so keep that in mind. He thinks maybe the skating's not there. Slow.
What's his inches over 6 feet? Is it plus 5?
5.
That's a pretty big number.
Yeah. So, but he's also just very different. So, like, if you think about Fabro and Carrier being kind of similar projection wise, Cal Foote's a little different, right? He's a different mold, different kind of player. Maybe if they keep Cal Foote and they keep Alex Carrier, they have a little bit of different angles to use for how they set up their defense. If they keep Fabro and Carrier, it's kind of like they have 2 of the same player, which is not bad either. But these are just thoughts. I'm just throwing these out there.
And I don't know this because obviously I haven't followed the career of Cal Foote very very well. But
Yeah.
is Cal Foote someone who's known for aggressive physical play? Does he
I
get
don't
in a
know.
lot of brawls?
I doubt it, but I don't know.
I know he fought Cole Smith
Did he?
earlier. Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
saw a video of that.
Maybe he
I
is.
was just thinking, with Jano gone, you don't have Jano who does Jano things.
Yeah.
Um, I just thought maybe they kind of viewed that as I mean, and not that Jano's been in as many fights this season as he had last season, but I wonder if they're thinking, this is someone we can bring in that is a very large presence, will be out there a lot, that can
Yeah.
be the physical presence that Jano was on the ice. I don't know, just thoughts.
Your mention of Cole Smith got me thinking. I wonder if Barry Trotz was the one who was like, "We got to get Cole Smith back." Wouldn't that be funny if we found that out? People would be like, instantly be like, "Oh God."
Well, Alex, you had the chance to ask him today. I was talking to David
I should
Poile.
have asked. I should have
Should
asked.
have been. It's what the people want to know.
Frankly, I just kind of forgot about Cole Smith, but there were some Predators there. Not Cole Smith, not one of them, but there was Cody Glass was there, UC Soros, Roman Yossi, of course, Jeremy Lauzon, who got forgotten. That was pretty cool, pretty funny moment. I don't blame Trotz for that at all. I sometimes forget Jeremy Lauzon's on the team as well, and he just got here, and he was like, that guy. Let me look at my sheet. Jeremy, that's him.
Well, I'm the champion of the third pairing defenders, Alex. So
yeah, you certainly have
important.
Lauzon's on the team, but
it hurt my feelings for him. So it's important. You got to have your third pairing defenders, and I love all.
Yes, I know. I know. We've got to talk about John Hynes. I think that's a big part of the next the next sort of half of this discussion. A lot of thoughts floating around about what's going to happen with John Hynes. But you know what? Before we do that, let's talk about relax the back, because that's look, if you are someone that wants to live better, feel better, and sleep better every single day, you got to check out Relax the Back. This place is amazing. They have an amazing showroom floor with all their different customized comfort options for the office, for relaxing at home, for sleeping at night. Ergonomic office chairs, zero gravity chairs. You sit in those things and you push the button or you grab the lever and it gets your spine in the correct position so you can work better every day or sleep better. If you're looking for sleep options, they have the Techno Gel mattresses, the Temper Ergo Smart Base system, the Wedge systems. Here's a little picture just to get you going on what the showroom floor looks like. There's those massage chairs that are just amazing to sit in. They do everything for you. There's a good look at the beds. That's the Techno Gel. You can kind of push on it and feel it and see what it feels like. The Wedge systems you can see. All of it is just excellent stuff for getting your body in the right position for sleeping. And that is what they do there. They are sleep experts. And Shaun, I know you've been there. It's a great store. Everyone just you have to walk into the store and just see all this stuff. You got to check it out. It's the Relax the Back store in Green Hills. If you want to check it out, go to 2020 Glen Echo Road right there in Green Hills. A sleep agent is on hand every day. Walk in there and talk to Glenn, who owns the store, and he will tell you about the 4 pillars of wellness: healthy sleep, healthy body, healthy work, and healthy mind. Okay, John Hynes. This is a question that I've gotten already several times today. And it's an interesting situation, right? Because, first of all, he was there. He's sitting right in front of us, right? He's right there. He had some hesitation about sitting in front of the media, I think.
Well, I mean, he made a joke about it.
Yeah.
He laughed. He smiled.
He probably felt more comfortable with us there than he did with maybe other people there. But it's an interesting situation because, the new incoming GM did not hire him. As of July 1st, he could decide whatever he wants to do with the coaching staff. He was, of course, asked this question multiple times about what he's planning to do with John Hynes, what he thinks of John Hynes, all that. And he said all of the things you would expect. He said, I really like John Hynes as a coach. He's a really good coach. He explained, well, I'm just going to let him speak because I have a clip, Shaun, of what Barry Trotz said regarding John Hynes. I thought this was a good answer. I think this really tells you where his head is at. you can, of course, read between the lines on what he's saying here. If you are someone who wants John Hynes fired today, you are going to look at this and you're going to be like, he's being nice. He still wants to fire him. It's clear. But if you're someone who thinks, hey, maybe Barry Trotz wants to give him a chance, then you're going to read it that way. But let me just play the clip. This is Barry Trotz today talking about how he feels about John Hynes.
And just about the job he's doing here.
I'll say this. I always realize, I mean, I've been in coaching for a long time, so I know when a team is well coached. John is a really good coach. I know Dan Lambert. I know they're all good coaches. Now, the biggest thing for me is that from now to the end of the season, I'm just going to evaluate, because it's easy to sit up and watch and judge. That's the easiest thing in the world to do. But when you're with people day in and day out as a coach, you're not 24/7, but you get long days and you know the players and you see them away from the rink, all that. It's way different. So what my assessment right now would be unfair, because you really, and I go back to Mitch Kornism, if you will, you don't know till you own it. And I'm going to get an opportunity, which is not too many GMs that are coming in get that opportunity to sort of evaluate and see from the inside, which is, to me, before I can make any judgments on anybody, be it players, coaching staff, any part of our organization, I have to be part of it, because it would be really unfair. And this is a well-run organization, so I don't think I have to do a whole lot, of restructuring or anything like that. But I will evaluate, especially for a good month or until the end of the season. Really.
So there you go. The takeaway for me from that is how in touch with what coaching requires and how to evaluate coaching Barry Trotz is, and how he said that the part that sticks out to me is where he said, if I were to make my assessment now, it would be unfair. That if he was to just step in and say, oh, well, look at the record, look at the players that are underperforming this year, look at the fact that they're probably not going to make the playoffs. Bad coach, see you later. He basically said that will be an unfair assessment, because he hasn't been around them as much as in order to fully evaluate. He hasn't seen the kind of players that are in the room that he's been given to build a roster with. He hasn't seen any other situations, injuries, whatever. I think that's a really smart way to approach it, and I think he handled the question really well. I think it's as well as you can handle it. I also think there's no guarantee John Hynes is back next year. I have my thoughts on what they should do, but I just want to get your thoughts on what the newest GM of the Predators just said.
Well, like you said, if you are someone who thinks he should be fired immediately, you can look at that and go, oh, man, he's got it in for Hynes. But if you think like, Hynes has done a pretty good job, then you can look at that and say, hey, he thinks he's a good coach. He's giving him a fair chance. And I think that's exactly kind of where he needs to be right now. If you're bringing in a new GM, you got to evaluate everything. And it's like you said, it's fair. It's the right thing to do to evaluate everything. He said he's evaluating till the end of the season. So, he's not going anywhere, at least until the off season. But, I've heard people say like, oh, heard a coaching change is coming, or heard a coaching change is rumored, or whatever that is. But it turns out that that's just, sometimes you get a new GM, you get a coaching change. And it's 1 year left on John Hynes' contract after this season, correct?
Yeah.
If you go back to what I think a lot of people said when they hired him, was that he was good at developing young talent. I think that's probably the standard that he's going to be judged on, because you're looking at a situation where you're bringing in a lot of young talent. And if you have someone that you think is good at developing that young talent, then you probably want to keep him around, if that's what your evaluation tells you. But that's, again, what he's got to figure out. That's his job over the next few months, is to stop and look and evaluate. Okay, so is John Hynes someone that we can bring back next season to help develop the younger players that are clearly going to be playing with the team. And if they think so, then they bring him back. And if they think not, then when I say they bring him back, they don't do anything. They allow his contract to continue. And if not, they terminate his contract. But I think it's just a non-committal answer. I think it's a political answer. I think it's a smart answer on day one, or even day negative, however many days it is until he actually becomes the acting GM. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's a smart answer. I think it's the kind of answer you'd want to give on your first day of a new job where you've got a question like that in front of you. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like the answer we got when we asked who was responsible for that trade. You know, you're getting a non-committal. So
here's my thoughts on what they should do, because
okay.
there's been a lot of, I mean, there are so many angry people about that. We're already a lot of people who are angry about just everything, but Poile was like a huge chunk of it. And now that Poile is definitely resigning, I feel like a lot of those people just shifted their anger or their disappointment or frustration onto the Hynes thing now. And it's like, okay, if only they just fire Hynes, then everything will be fine. Here's my defense of John Hynes. I know that you and I have been two people that have defended John Hynes, considerably. I think for good reason. I am unbiased here. I don't care if they keep John Hynes on board or not, but I do think that the totality of the circumstances for everything that's happened with John Hynes has been, for the most part, positive. There have been a lot of good developments. I think last year you saw some really good steps forward for players. The development of Tanner Jeannot into what he became, and then what they got out of him.
Yeah.
Alex Carrier is another one, I would say. If you are going to blame John Hynes, this is just my thing. If you're going to blame John Hynes for the underproduction this year, then you have to give him credit for the overproduction last year. The way that the playoffs ended last year was not because John Hynes had nothing to do with UC Saros' high sprained ankle. Nothing. That is why that whole situation happened with them losing to Arizona, having to play the Avalanche. I mean, like, I realize it sounds apologist, but I just don't see a lot of – now, take all the negatives too. I mean, the Tolvanen stuff doesn't make any sense to me. The Cody Glass stuff I go back and forth on, because, he's healthy, scratched him for so long. Don't really understand why. But then now when he got him back, look what he's doing now. I mean, like, maybe he needed that. I don't know. So there are some major missteps. I mean, I think there's some lineup decisions that don't make sense. The line shuffling is always a question. Why did Tomasino Lang, stay in Milwaukee all year? Oh, but let me, I'm rambling. Let me just get to my point. I think that they should not only keep him this year, I think they should let him coach next year, because you are clearly seeing them decide, we are big time sellers and we want to really quickly move on. So they don't think that they're contenders right now. And if we assume that they kind of also think maybe John Hynes is not the guy to get us to the next level, to the Stanley Cup level, but he's pretty good at developing young players. Not perfect, but pretty good. Well, let him do it next year. Let him develop some of those young players next year. I'm willing to hear arguments against it, but I don't see any problem with him staying on next year. And then, like, after that, someone else becomes available. Maybe there's another firing that happens, that the perfect coach comes available. And then you've got your guys set up for success.
So, let me give you my take, and I'll admit that this isn't like a well thought out take. I didn't really think that I was going to get into this tonight, but I go back to something that Hynes said really close to the beginning of his tenure with the team, and take into consideration too that John Hynes took the team over like in the middle of the season, 2 months before COVID starts, went for a long time without being able to have a full length training camp. I mean, he's faced a lot of adversity in his time with the Predators, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things he said, because you always hear about people getting scratched and people getting benched and things like that. And I think, I don't remember who asked it. It may have been me. It may not have been, but somebody asked back when we were able to talk to everybody on Zoom, when you scratch a player, when you healthy scratch a player, what is the process? Like what happens? Is it just an arbitrary, you're sitting tonight and then there's no conversation? What happens between that moment and the time when they come back to play? And it was a really well thought out answer. And the process was, like, honestly, for me, I'm not a hockey coach. I don't know what that looks like. Really kind of fascinating that when they get healthy scratched, they know why they're healthy scratched. You heard him recently discuss something with Novak being scratched for a few games, saying that, it wasn't anything we were pointing to and saying that sometimes you need a little bit of a break so you can get back up to the level you need to be at. But they know why they're being scratched, and then they're basically given a plan for, this is what you need to work on, this is what you need to do in order to get back to where you're playing. And they check in with them regularly on that. And they give them tools. They don't just say, you need to be better, and then they wait, a week. Are you any better? They're working with them on a regular basis, checking in with them, coaching them, teaching them, doing all of those things that they should be doing as a coach to make sure that player is getting back to that point. That doesn't mean that just because a player is told, hey, these are the things you need to work on and to get back, it doesn't mean that they're going to be able to do that. But when you think about that aspect of coaching, that teaching aspect of coaching, you got to realize it doesn't stop at the little league level or the high school level or the college level. That continues even into your career as a professional. So I think it really speaks a lot to when you talk about John Hynes developing young players. I'm with you on everything else. Like you said, there's some questionable scratches, some weird benching, some weird lineup decisions. But, if that's what you're getting when you're coming in as a young player and you're playing a few games and then being scratched, that's really a positive. And if you look at what someone like Carl Taylor's doing at the AHL level, he's doing the same thing, but he views himself as a teacher as well. And he's working with those players and his staff to bring them up to speed. So when they get the opportunity to come to the NHL, they don't just come up and make an appearance, they come up to stay. And we mentioned Tanner Jeannot. I mean, look at what the organization, from Hynes down to Carl Taylor have been able to do with Tanner Jeannot and what he's turned into. And I think it says a lot that is organizationally, it's not just something that's happening in Milwaukee. They're kind of running the same system. They're doing the same things in both organizations. So you kind of have this top to bottom thing going on that obviously is supported by the head coach of the NHL squad. So when you put all those things together, I think it is a pretty good situation for developing young players if you look at it beyond just Nashville as opposed to Nashville and Milwaukee. But I'm with you. I think you bring him back next year and let him finish his contract. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think he gets a lot of extra hate piled on him for some of the lineup decisions, but I don't know, beyond that how merited it is.
And other coaches are going to make those no coach makes a lineup that like everyone likes. Yeah, I mean, It just doesn't happen. Or pairings that don't. I mean, there's always going to be that. Now, I think fans are well within their right to get angry about like their player that they think is the guy that's going to change things, or like this guy, I hate this guy, don't play this guy, sucks. So like the fans are going to do that, but if you think a new coach is going to come in and it's going to fit exactly the system you want it to fit, and all the lineup decisions are going to be perfect, and you're going to like every one of them, it's not going to happen. Like that's not what's going to happen. Didn't happen with Laviolette. Certainly didn't happen with the Trotz the first 16 years. It's foolish to think that it's going to work out like that. So I do think that there's merit in maintaining a little bit of consistency, seeing where John Hynes goes next year. Now, is this what's going to happen? I kind of don't think so. As I was listening to that again, I do hear a little bit of niceties, some pleasantries being thrown around about Hynes. Like, he's a really good coach. And the way he was like, I know those guys. Yeah, John Hynes and Dan Lambert. Yeah, those are good guys. Those are good coaches. Well, we've got to evaluate. I listening to it 2 or 3 more times, I'm kind of thinking like, I kind of think he's going to move on. I think he's gonna get a new coach, but I don't know where it's gonna be. And your mention of Carl Taylor, boy, in this era of the Nashville Predators, just not nepotism, cronyism. That's what it is. Where it's just like you bring in your friends to do all the jobs for you. It's like, I mean, they've got the guy already in house, right? Carl Taylor. I mean, like, bring him up, and that would really fit with the recent trends of let's go get the one guy we've known for 17 years to come do this job after the guy who we've known for 26 years is leaving. The 2 times they've gone out and on a limb to like get in the new guy, Laviolette and Hynes, like one definitely worked. The other one's a work in progress. Maybe it doesn't work, but that's pretty risky for them to do it a 3rd time. Just go get, I don't know, Mike Sullivan if he gets fired. John Cooper if he got fired. That'd be crazy.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
What's his name? Dallas Eakins, Mr. Doctor Who over there in Anaheim. Like, they're not going to do that. I just don't think they're going to go out and hire Bruce Boudreau or some coach that's just sitting at home right now. So having said all that, I don't have any idea exactly how long Hynes is going to be here, but I think he'll definitely finish out this season 50-50 on next year.
I think it's fair.
Meanwhile, there's hockey to be played, and they have 20 games remaining. They're 6, 7, 8 points out of the playoffs right now. Not likely to happen, but you never know, I guess. They've won 4 of 5, so who knows? They're out. We haven't even talked about the Johansson injury. He's out for 12 weeks, so he's done for the year. Juuso Parssinen got injured. He's day-to-day, though, so he's probably going to be okay. That was a weird injury.
Yeah.
Who else is injured? Alex Carrier came back. The other day, against Arizona, they went 11 forwards, 7 defensemen. They just sent Kevin Gravel back, so maybe that means that Parsonen's back tomorrow.
Or Cal Foot's back.
Oh, right. Yeah, Cal Foot. That's right. Oh, yeah. New guy.
Got a new guy, man.
Yeah.
Can't forget the new guy.
11 forwards, 7 defensemen the rest of the year. That'd be weird.
That would be weird.
So Tuesday against Pittsburgh, Thursday at Florida, Saturday at Chicago. Those are like 3 extremely winnable games. If this team were to win all 3 and have won 7 of 8, like, would not be surprised in the least. It can be freeing when some crazy organization change like this happens, right?
True. Your brain's different after that, because maybe you take that. It's like, okay, they're trading everybody away. Pressure to make the playoffs is off. Let's win some games.
Yep.
Makes sense.
No pressure at all. That's right. Yep. So anything else?
Well, I'll just say, it was funny. I tuned into the game last night with my kids, and my son was blissfully unaware of anything. He'd been away at a hockey tournament all weekend, and so I kind of trying to explain everything to him, and he's like, "So we don't even need to watch this game? They're just going to lose?" And I was like, "I don't know. I mean, they're playing a guy down. They got 7 defenders, 10 forwards. It's kind of it's not your normal setup." And I said before the game too, I was like, "And hey, if you like watching Tanner Jeannot, you may want to watch this game, because it may be the last time you see him play." And then he didn't dress, and it was like, "Oh, okay." So yeah, you may not. Hope you enjoyed warm-ups, buddy.
First time the Predators have ever used the held out for trade related reasons. That's the new trend, right?
It's really cool. Well, you don't want them to get hurt. I get it.
Nope.
But and then they end up this blowout win, and you're like, so they're down Johansson, Forsberg, Jeannot, Niederreiter, Parssinen, and they're just a player down.
Yeah.
And they still won the game 6-2. And you're like, now you keep in mind, of course, dude, who you're playing. You're playing the Coyotes.
Right.
Let's be fair here. You're playing the Coyotes. But didn't the Preds just play the Coyotes not too long ago? How did that game go again?
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah, with everybody healthy, I think.
They played with 19 guys.
Who did?
The Preds, because of the Jeannot thing. So it was 17. Yeah. They have 19 on the ice. Or not on the ice, but in the game.
Right. But I mean, they just played the Coyotes before that, though.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about something else. Yeah. So it's been crazy. And I think we've got really interesting finish to the season. I mean, like I still swear that like this kind of team to watch is just as fun to watch as a team that's pushing for the playoffs or pushing for the wild card or pushing for a Central Division title. Like it's just as interesting to me. And I watch the games. I'm watching different things. I'm like kind of seeing, who's playing well, who's developing. But now it's even more interesting because of all the potential sales and all the changes. So
well, and you get to see guys like Novak and Glass, Tomasino just kind of ball out there, and that's. You've wanted that. People I think have been like clamoring for like we've got to see the kids. We want to see the kids. Let the kids play. Hey, the kids played and they look pretty awesome, right? I mean, that's again, we're in uncharted waters, like we talked about last week, right? We're in uncharted waters. Here there be dragons. This is new territory, and it's just because it's uncharted doesn't mean it has to be bad or scary. It can still be a lot of fun,
right?
So yeah.
All right. We will be back next week. Until then, you can check out all of our Preds coverage at A2ZSports.com. Go read it there. We got a lot up there now. And you can check out that stuff there. Check out me on Twitter at AlexDarty1, John on Twitter at SCSNSH. And we'll see everybody next week.